Israel and Egypt have exchanged draft proposals aimed at finalising a ceasefire hostage release deal, attempting to reconcile an Egyptian compromise plan with a US proposal from envoy Steve Witkoff. The Egyptian plan involves the release of 8 hostages and 8 bodies in return for a 40 to 70-day truce and a large-scale release of Palestinian prisoners. Witkoff's proposal offers a 2-month ceasefire for the release of 5 hostages and numerous Palestinian security prisoners. Israeli officials indicate a potential agreement is near. Meanwhile, the head of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, has warned of more disease and deaths due to Israel's blockade entering Gaza, where more than 10,000 people need medical evacuation abroad. Meanwhile, an Israeli airstrike killed 10 members of the Al-Farah family, including 7 children in Khan Yunis, according to the Civil Defense Agency. The Israeli military is investigating. Continuous tank fire was also reported in the area, and 2 civilians were killed in the Beit Lahia area. The Israeli military has issued urgent evacuation orders for parts of the eastern Gaza city, warning of intensified operations targeting terrorist infrastructure and advising residents to relocate to shelters in the west. We stay in the Middle East, where schools in Beirut, southern suburb of Dahieh, are living in constant fear of renewed conflict after Israeli airstrikes hit the area last month. The strikes targeting Hezbollah-linked facilities triggered panic as parents rushed to collect their children. Though a ceasefire was supposed to end the war, Israeli bombings have continued, leaving schools like St. George's and Burj High School devastated. With debris still clearing, students and staff are traumatized, holding evacuation drills and adjusting to a new reality of ongoing threats. Many parents are hesitant to send their children back, worried about both the physical dangers and psychological toll of the conflict. We move to Afghanistan now, where a 4th man was publicly executed on Friday. The country's Supreme Court said in a statement after earlier announcing the executions of 3 other convicted murderers. Previously, Afghanistan's Supreme Court had stated that 3 convicted murderers were executed by order of Taliban authorities, bringing the total to 9 of the number of publicly put to death since their return to power. 2 men were shot around 6 to 7 times by a male relative of the victims in front of spectators in the centre of Baghdad's province. The Supreme Court announced on social media platform X that a 3rd man was executed in Nimroz province. The statement said that the men had been sentenced to retaliatory punishment for shooting other men after their cases were examined very precisely and repeatedly. According to reports, Afghans had been invited to attend the event in official notices shared widely on Thursday. We move over to the United States now, where the Trump administration suffered a setback in a closely watched immigration case on Thursday, as the US Supreme Court ordered it to facilitate the return of a wrongly deported Salvadorian migrant. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, 29, was living in the eastern state of Maryland until he became one of more than 200 people sent to a prison in El Salvador last month as part of Republican President Donald Trump's crackdown on undocumented immigrants. Most of the deportees were suspected members of Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, which the Trump administration has declared a foreign terrorist organization. Justice Department lawyers later admitted that Abrego Garcia, who is married to a US citizen, was deported due to an administrative error. Abrego Garcia, who had been living in the United States under protected legal status since 2019, when a judge ruled he should not be deported because he could be harmed in his home country. The United Nations has condemned Myanmar's military for launching over 120 attacks despite a ceasefire declared after the devastating March 28th earthquake that killed more than 3,600 people. UN Rights Office spokeswoman Ravina Shamdasani reported that more than half of these strikes occurred after the ceasefire took effect on April the 2nd, targeting populated areas with aerial and artillery fire. UN Rights Chief Volker Turk urged the military to halt operations and remove obstacles to humanitarian aid. In Xinjiang, one of the hardest hit regions, opposition-held areas have relied solely on local efforts for rescue and relief. The United Nations called for a full amnesty of political detainees. Shamdasani emphasized that humanitarian efforts must take priority, urging the junta to focus on aiding survivors rather than continuing military operations. Taha Rana, a Pakistani-Canadian terrorist linked to the 2008 Mumbai attacks that claimed nearly 170 lives, was arrested by India's National Investigation Agency in New Delhi following his extradition from the United States. Security has been heightened outside NIA headquarters in Delhi, where Mumbai terror attacks accused Hussain Rana has been kept. The press release released by the United Nations States Department of Justice states that India's pending proceedings against Rana are not the first proceedings in which Rana has been accused of conspiring to commit violent acts of terrorism. In 2013, Rana was sentenced to 14 years in prison following his trial conviction in the Northern District of Illinois for conspiring to provide material support to LET and to a foiled LET-sponsored terrorist plot in Copenhagen, Denmark. NIA has produced Taha Rana at the Patiala court after formally placing him under arrest on his arrival at Indira Gandhi International Airport in Delhi on Thursday evening, following his successful extradition from the United States. Well, that's all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more global news updates. Hello and welcome. I am Thomas Porteous and you're watching NewsX.